Hi viewers and welcome to the channel and welcome to another lesson of the Understanding FreeCAD series. In this lesson we're going to be looking at the inverse pocket again, but one thing we're going to concentrate on is how to use the part design workbench safely with the part workbench. We're going to be learning about part mirrors and also part design mirrors, mirroring features across there. And we're going to be using the part design and part to create a symmetrical part using inverse pockets and get that ready to a point where we can export that as an STL file for 3D printing or sharing with people. So I hope you enjoy this series, and let's have a look at this technique and how these two workbenches work together. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So we're in FreeCAD and we're going to start a new document. Now I'm going to start in the part workbench. So we're going to start off from there and we're going to rough out the design. It's a very simple design. It requires two tubes. So we're going to start with one, and my inner radius is going to be 15 millimeters, so I want a 30 millimeter diameter. So this is the width of the rod that was going to go through the hole. The outer radius is going to be 25. So we've got this here, and we want the height of 100. So those are my predetermined heights, diameters, etc. there. So now I've got that, I'm going to duplicate up this tube and set it along this way. Let's OK that. Take this tube and we go up to edit and duplicate selection. So now we've got this tube here, which is duplicate of this one, and I can right click and transform this. Now we're just going to transform this over, so we're just roughing out what we're looking for. Now I know that my rods are going to be passed through this way and across this way, and I want to allow for adjustment in the length of the actual structure that I'm creating with these connection points. So we're going to put these around about halfway. So I'm just going to rough them in with the transform to start with, and I just want it touching here. So I don't want any of this coming through. So we're just going to have that touching like so. Otherwise the rod won't be able to pass all the way through here, and I won't allow this to slip up and down the rod, so I can adjust the width of my structure. That's okay, so I'm going to OK that, and now I can come in and make some amendments. So this tube 001, I'm just going to push this up. Now this is going to be a part design feature that I'm creating. This is just to rough it out and use it as reference. So I'm using the part workbench to rough this out, and I'll be coming back to the part workbench later. So we'll have a look at the placement and look at the position. And because it's a 100 millimeter height, then I can halve this. So we're looking at 50 millimeters, and the Y, which runs this way, that's at 41, which is okay. And the Z we're going to do is 50. So we've got minus 50 and 50. So you can see we've got that centered now because it's half this height. So that's all sitting there nicely. Obviously we could use this to attach our rods, but if we look here, this is a weak point coming in here. So if we create this and 3D printed this, our weak point will be along here. So we've got to strengthen this structure. Also, it doesn't look very nice, and we've got to take some material out of here to allow us to clamp this down onto the rods. So what I'm going to do is create curves between here and here in my part design part, and use this as basically a template. So we're looking to curve this and create material in here, and that will strengthen this structure here, because if we place two rods along here, then the up and down movement will gradually weaken this and it will snap, so it won't last very long. So now we've got the tubes in here as a guide. I'm going to import some of this geometry so we can actually sketch around this. First things first is this line here. We need this around the side so we can actually import it along here so it acts as a seam. So I'm going to come in, right click and transform, and rotate this around to the side like so. So it's sitting on the side. And if I click on top, let's make sure that it's right the way round, like so. And we can use that to import in our sketch. Hit OK. Let's jump over to the sketcher. And we'll create a sketch against this. So I'm going to click on right, look at the YZ plane. Let's create a sketch, make sure there's nothing selected. Create a sketch, YZ plane, and hit OK. You can see we're not exactly in the center here. Don't have to worry about that, that's absolutely fine. We're going to start importing the geometry with this tool. Create a link to external geometry. And I can come in and import this line. If we can get it. So we've got the points there. We also need the point here. And the same for the bottom. And we want this arc as well, this circle. So we've got all those imported. I can come over to the model and just right click to get the mouse pointer back and control click both those tubes and press the space bar to see what we got. So we've got this geometry now. We're going to be using the polyline tool and we're going to auto constrain to these points. So we're doing coincident constraint against all of those, like so. Hit escape and get the mouse pointer back by either hitting escape or pressing the right mouse key. So we've got that sketch there and we've imported the geometry. We're going to put some geometry around this now. Now we're going to use the arc tool, endpoint and rim point. We're going to create point on object constraint, point on object constraint, and just come out and use a tangency. So we've got an arc there. See, it's gone orange. Come over, it's saying sketch constraints, redundant constraints, click to select. I haven't got the auto remove redundant constraints on, so I'm going to click that one and see what it's saying. That's the problem, is constraint 9. So the problem is we've got constraint 9, that's an issue. This one here, let's just delete that. So we're going to have a look at this. So we've got this arc. Now these have a radius. So if I take this one and make those equal, that means there's an equal radius there, so we can pull this out and it's fine. And now we can do a coincident constraint against those two, and we'll get rid of this constraint here, point on line constraint. Let's get rid of those. So that means because we've got the coincident constraint, there's no need for the point on line constraint because we're constraining the radius there. So it's important to think how these are going to be constrained. So we have a radius constraint, means we can't move these points outwards, therefore there's no point, the point on arc constraint. So sometimes it's worth turning the auto remove redundancy constraints off, but leave the avoid redundant auto constraints on. So you can see where you're having problems and learn the reasons why. We're going to create an arc against these two. So again, using the arc tool, coincident constraint and coincident constraint, and bring this arc around. I'm going to create this arc at a 25 radius. So come in, constrain radius, make that one 25, and hit OK. And the same with the arc that goes here as well. So create an arc and attach it to that point, making sure they're coincident constraints, hit escape, and we're going to make these two equal. So we've got equality with the arcs there. I need to keep these points opposite each other. We could use these 2 points of the center of this circle, this arc, think about it as a circle, and use a horizontal constraint. That keeps those in line. So we've got those there. You can see those are moving. So what we're going to do is take these 2 points of these arcs and this point and create a constraint against there. So there's a vertical constraint. Constraint 16 is not needed, so we'll delete that. That's fully constrained now. So let's close that, and we've got our sketch ready to go. Come up to Sketch, Validate Sketch, highlight Open Vertices, and we can see none are there. Let's close that. So this will pad nicely now. So if we bring back both the tubes, pressing the spacebar on them, we can see what's happened. So when we create a pad here, we're going to have a hole going through it, like so. So it'll pad up to here, and then this will be half. So we're going to create it in 2 stages. So this will be half that here. What I'm going to do now is come over to the part design. I'm going to create a body, but I'm not going to create a sketch. I'm going to use this sketch and dump it into the body, like so. Trouble is, in this sketch, we've got external geometry. So you can see the external geometry in here. And we can't pull in any more external geometry because you can't reference, it says down to the bottom left, this object belongs to another body and can't link. So that's in there. We don't need to reference any external geometry. We could even remove that from that sketch and lock them down. I'm going to do that because it may cause issues in the future. So we can come in, go down to the bottom. We've got all the elements in here. Drop this down, look for external, highlight them, and hit delete. That's got rid of those. Let's come up and just hide the model. Now this may sound a bit counterintuitive because we've actually got rid of all the constraints. But I'm just going to highlight all these constraints and use a block constraint against them. I can't use the points in the block constraint, so I need to control click all the edges, like so. And we'll just block that. That's auto constrained now with a block constraint. So we just use the tubes to get our initial shape. We could go through and auto constrain this if we so desired, but I've just used that basically as a tracing pattern. So we've got our sketch inside there now. It hasn't got any associations with these tubes, so any problems that we may have will be eliminated because we're not referencing that external geometry outside the body. I'm going to use this sketch with a pad now. So we're going to come out, close. We've got the gridding that's come up for some reason, so that's over in the draft workbench. Let's get rid of that gridding. There we go, that's gone. Let's go back to the part design. And we've got our sketch inside our body, and that's important that sketch is inside the body because now we can pad this. And we're going to give it a 50mm pad, which is half the size of the tube, and hit OK. Bring back the tube so you can see what's happened. We've got that in there. Now you can see how that lays in there, and we can see on this side how much material we've got here, but we want to curve this as well and come up and connect. So we're going to use the same sketch to actually remove material from here. So for that, I'm going to take this sketch, come over to the draft workbench and make a clone. Now the reason why I'm using a clone from the draft workbench is because I can transform it quite easily. So we use the clone from the toolbar, and that creates a clone there. We also can go up to modifications and clone from there. That clone's sitting there now, and we just drop that inside the body. And we'll right click on the sketch that's been cloned and transform. And let's have a look, see where we want to transform this. So I'm going to transform this up to here. And we can rotate this around. So let's bring this around. Let's just bring this to here and get it into position. and move this down. So you can see what we're trying to do. What we'll do now is OK that, and we'll get this in the right position. So we look at the placement, we can look at the position. We've got 50 along there, which is correct. If this was like 49, that wouldn't be actually right there. So 50 is fine, and Z minus 0, which is fine. So that's good. That's all ready to go. I'm still in the draft. I'm going to click on that sketch and go modifications and draft to sketch. That's created a sketch there now, which I can edit. So I can double click on that and we can see that sketch there. I want to remove this material. We can't use this sketch because if I close out of it, let's hide this sketch here. Also, it needs to be inside the body. There we go, so we can use that as a pocket. Come over to the part design. If I try to pocket that sketch now, this one here, using the pocket, it will remove this material like so, but we want the reverse of this. So to do that, if I cancel that, double click the sketch and create a border around this with the square, then we're creating basically a void in the middle, which is this bit, and this bit will either be pocketed or padded depending on what we select. It's going to hit escape to get my mouse pointer back. We can see there's no constraints on here, and I'm just going to select all the edges, control select them all, and we're just going to block these from moving and use the block constraint. That locks that down. Now we can close out there. From the part design, we've got the sketch selected, and we'll use the pocket. You can see how that's working now. So let's remove material going this way because this is surrounded by the square. Go through all. That's that material removed. Hit OK. And let's hide the tubes because they may cause a bit of confusion. You can see how that's taking shape. So let's come back and bring in one of the tubes. So we've got this tube here. We're going to use a circle in here on this face, this pocket, to create a sketch on there. And I'm going to import some of this geometry. Let's go out to the model. Let's hide this tube. So we've got this geometry here which we can import. That gives us a center point there, and we can add our circle like so. Hit escape to get the mouse pointer back, and we select our tube, and we can see that circle's more or less where we want it. So let's select that circle, give it a radius and of 15 millimeters because it's a 30mm hole. And now we can close out and pocket that like so, and we'll go through all and hit OK. So now that's through there. We no longer need that tube, so we've got our first hole there. Let's do the same on the other side. So click on this face again, select the sketch, bring in this geometry. Or do I need to bring in the geometry because we've already got this point here, so I don't really need to do that. Let's hit escape and just delete that. Click on it, hit delete. So I'm just going to add a circle in here, and obviously this is going to be the same radius. So click on it, click on the radius and type in 15. Hit close, and we'll pocket that again through all. So you can see how this is building up. So we use the part design to create our body and create the features. So the last feature is that pocket. And we've used the part workbench, just add a couple of tubes just to get an idea of where they're going to lay and create a sketch around there, which we disassociated with the part and place the sketch inside our body. So I'm going to get rid of these two tubes now. So I don't need those no more. So I can hit delete and get rid of them if I so desire. So those are gone. and we're looking at this, and what I'm going to do is just get an idea of what this looks like at the moment when two halves are put together. So to do that, I'm going to come over to the part workbench. I'm just going to save. I'm going to take this pocket and I'm going to mirror it using the mirror. So look down, we've got this pocket selected and we're looking to flip it. I'm looking at this, we're looking to flip it over the ZY plane. So let's drop this down, YZ plane, there we go, and OK that. So we can see what that looks like now. So that's a part feature and we can get an idea of what we need to do. So I'm thinking we need some curvature on here that curves this out. We could go with this, but it looks a bit ugly. So I'm going to create some curves along here. And on the bottom. And probably some chamfers as well. So I'm going to leave that there and just hide that. So we're still working in this part design body. I've just made a part mirror there so I can see what it looks like. Now we're going to create pockets again here. So this part mirror is only on that pocket. So let's just delete that. Go up to the body and use the mirror. So we're mirroring the body this time. Again, we're going to use the YZ plane and OK. So we've mirrored the body, so that means that anything that changes in the body will be replicated over in the mirror. We can see the body is now sitting inside the mirror. So I'm just going to hide that mirror and work in the body. But leaving this mirror here, we can break out this at any time. It's still a valid model. So we're using the part and the part design together. Let's go back over to the part design. Now we're back over in the part design. We can look at changing this edge here to make this a bit more attractive and also create a curve along here so this is less sharp. For that, I'm going to be using this face. I'm going to click on this face and create a sketch upon there. And we're going to create just a standard curve along here using the 3-point arc, and we'll place that along here like so. Hit escape to get the mouse pointer back, and we're just going to position this, and we'll use the polyline and create some lines in here to allow us to remove this. And we'll place hit escape, just place a horizontal constraint upon there. So we're looking at removing material like so. We can lock this down if we so desire. I'm just going to use a block constraint against this, and that will lock all that down. So I can hit close now, and we can come over to model and then pocket our sketch, go through all, and that's taken that off there. So create a nice little curve along there. Want to, we can come back into the sketch and do some adjustments, but that'll do me. So just hit OK, and now we've got our pocket and our sketch that we used is sitting here. Let's have a look at our mirror. Come up, body mirror, and this is what we've got now. So you can see, we can actually look to see how this is starting to look by using the part mirror in there. So now we've got an idea of what it looks like mirrored. I'm going to start removing material from here so we can actually create a connection across here. So we're going to create a split and attach bolts to lock these down so we can tighten against the rod or the pole that goes through here. And we're going to do the same on this side as well. So if you think about it, we've got the mirror side. This side is quite easy, so we can actually take this face, create a sketch upon here, and come in. And what we're just going to do is create a rectangle. We can use this line here, auto constraint to this line, so point on line constraint or point on object constraint, and just create a little bit of space in there with the rectangle. And actually, I'm going to import this line here because I'm going to make sure that this point and this point are connected, like so. It will go into redundant constraint because we added the point on line constraint, which if I come down and have a look, so we've got this point on line constraint here, so this one there, it's actually selected it, number 9. So click to select and delete that. So that's correct there. If I did the same this side, then I run the rest of this, actually leaving a bit of an edge there. So you can see if I put that, I'd actually leave a bit of an edge there. So we don't want to do that, we want to keep this beyond. And we can just set a length in here. So that's about 10 millimeters, actually a bit more. Let's go 12, because there's plenty of length to remove, because this is just going to be a pocket. And we need to set some height. So I'm going to go millimeters, so take a millimeter off of here. Hit close, and we can pocket that now. What I'm going to do is bring the mirror back and come down to the pocket I just created, or the sketch I just created ready to pocket, and we'll pocket that. We can see how that's been affected, so the mirror's taken on that as well. And we're just going to go through all, hit OK, and that's gone all the way through there. Let's do the same on the other side. Obviously this isn't a mirror, a part mirror here, so we're going to actually have to remove some geometry from here, and we're looking at the right, like so. So let's create a sketch along the YZ plane. This is curved face. I mean, we could attach it to here with datum plane, but there's no need to. I'm going to hide this sketch down here. Let's press the space on that sketch to get rid of that. Matter of fact, what I can do is attach it to this plane, this nice flat plane. Let's attach it to there. Otherwise, I would just put it on one of the normal planes. I'll create a sketch on that plane, on that face, and we need to be in the middle here. So I'm going to import one of these arcs. So this arc here, that gives me a center point that I can use to actually attach something to. So let's go for rectangle, place that into position, come in. I'm going to use this line and this point and use a point on object constraint or point on line constraint. Then I can use this point, and then lastly selecting the middle point. Use a symmetrical constraint, make symmetry across those. So I've got a redundant constraint. Let's click to select that because it was a point on line constraint. Didn't need that, so we can actually delete that now. So hit delete. So we've got this now, and we're just going to make this length a millimeter as well. Trouble is, which way are we around? Let's go for this one. That's the correct one. It would come up 0 millimeters and put us into an orange style sketch if I'd done it wrong way around. So let's cancel that. Let me show you that. So if I clicked on it and did it this way, you can see it's gone orange. And if you get that, that means you selected the wrong constraint because you haven't orientated yourself in your head correctly. So we need the height of 1 millimeter. Okay, that. And this length comes out here. Well, we need to just make this some kind of arbitrary length. 27 millimeters will do. Close that. And create a pocket through all. and go through all. That's taking it all the way through there. Remembering that we've got the mirror on this side, so hit OK, and that will go through the mirror as well. So our mirror is just updating itself as we make changes to this. Sometimes it's not instant. When we hit OK, it will take the change. Matter of fact, that's got to be 2 millimeters. We only want a millimeter there, so let's come in, because this is mirrored each side. So that needs to be 2 mil. So 2 millimeters there. Close that. That's 2 millimeter length along there. Now we're going to attach some holes, pocket some holes through here. So I'm just going to hide that mirror and come into here, create a sketch, and we're going to create some circles along here. We could use a part mirror in here to mirror the circles over. So let's create our first circle. That's in there. Hit escape, set this with some diameter. Moment it's 8, so let's go for something like 4 millimeter. Some more 4 millimeter hole there for our bolt. And we need to place this some distance away from the edge. So to do that, I'm going to either import the edge or use this line with some construction geometry. Now, if I'm going to do that, I want this in the middle of here. So I'm going to import this edge and this edge. So I've got 2 points here. And I can create a line, goes down here. Make sure it's got a vertical constraint on there, so it's nice and vertical, using the 2 points. And we're going to create a symmetry against this point, like so. So that moves now not this way, but we can move this up and down. So I'm going to click the end point and the center point of our circle, coincident constraint, and I can now lock this down with a fixed vertical distance. But first of all, I need to convert this to construction geometry so it doesn't affect any of our sketches. So this won't show in our sketch. It's just for attaching things to and aligning them. So that's that icon there. Also available on sketch, sketch geometries, and toggle construction geometry. Place the length in there, something like 10 mil. It's 10 millimeters away from there. And we hit close. I could make another one on the other side, but we're going to mirror this across. And we can talk about mirroring then. So we're going to create a hole and dimension through all, hit OK. So that's in there now. It comes out the other side like so. Now with part design mirroring, we can't mirror a whole body. We actually have to mirror a whole body through the part like we did before. But this is to do with feature mirroring. So we have our feature and we want to mirror it over here. We can mirror multiple features. We've only got one here. So for instance, if we had another feature on here, so let's create another feature on here. Let's create another sketch on here. And we're coming here. And what should we do? We should just import some geometry. Let's import this geometry and create another circle in here just to go just outside, like so. Hit escape. Just going to knock down the diameter of that to 6 millimeters. We'll just make, this is just for demonstrations, and I'm just going to make a little pocket in there. I just do a 2 mil pocket, so it's like that. So it's like a little indent in there. Well, what the part mirroring allows you to do is this little icon here. We'll come up to part design, apply a pattern mirrored, is that we can click this and it will say what features, because we haven't selected the feature yet. So I can select pocket 7, which was our last one, and mirror that across, but that will only mirror that pocket. If I select this one as well, that will mirror both of those. but we need to mirror this across some kind of center line. At the moment we can't, because if I hit OK on that, then we've got those two in there and we can't see that being mirrored across. We can see our planes here, and if I select that plane, well, we can't mirror across that plane, we can't mirror across this one, we need a center line. So we can use a piece of construction geometry in here in one of our sketches. So let's cancel that and come into this pocket, come in and double click that sketch and zoom in, and let's find the center of this object. So it's going to be this circle's the center. So if I import that, we'll get the points here and I can draw a line. Now this is along that same plane, which is good. Let's just draw a line and make sure that when we draw a line, we get horizontal constraint come up, hit escape and click on that and convert that to construction geometry. I have to lock it down, that's fine. Let's hit close. We've got a line in there that we can use in our part mirroring. And I'm going to come down and select pocket 7 and pocket 6, hit OK. Now if I drop down this vertical sketch axis, drop down here, you can see we've got the construction line 1 here. Hit that, and we can see that's not actually working at the moment. So let's cancel that and see what we've done. Now, we've selected the last one here, and that construction line goes across. Should be fine. So let's quickly explain what's happened with that mirroring and the reasons why we couldn't actually select that construction. We've got a simple model here which consists of a pad and 2 pockets, and the pad is this rectangle, and we have a pocket within here which is a smaller circle, which is here, which goes all the way through, and then another one which is this outer circle. You can see we've got a piece of construction geometry in here, and in this one we have this construction geometry just pushing it away from this edge. So it's similar to what we have in our model with our clamp. If I try to take this pocket, the last one, which has the construction geometry in there, and use the mirror, so pocket 1, we can drop this down and select that construction line and it mirrors across. Absolutely fine. But if we select this pocket and this pocket and do the mirroring, then if we drop this down, we don't have the correct construction line here. We have the one that actually goes along here, so you can see it's not actually worked. The reason being is quite simple, is that if you're going to mirror a number of pockets or a number of pads, then you need the construction geometry that you're going to mirror over on the very first one you select. So this one here, I would need it in here, because if I try to mirror this one only, then our construction geometry that I want to mirror across is here in our last pocket. And obviously that's not available here. It has to be sitting on this one. So we can't reference that because it's a later action. And it's the same when you do multi-select. When you've multi-select them, then obviously this one won't be able to get to this pocket if you think about it, because it's the last action, it's not before it. If it did get to that pocket, then you're looking into the future rather than previous actions, and that's obviously not possible. So this is the reason why it's not pocketing over. So we would need to remove this construction geometry and place it upon this sketch, the first one, and we'll just place a piece of construction geometry in here and change that to construction mode and just move it to about there. Close that. Now we can pocket this over, which will be absolutely fine using that construction geometry. There's construction line 2 there, and that pockets over quite easily. And this one, let's create a mirror of that pocket, so that will pocket over, and we'll come down You can see we haven't got any references in there. But the minute we include these two and do the mirror, then we've got this reference, construction line 2, because it's pulled it from its predecessor, its previous action. Let's come back into that last sketch. I'm going to move this construction line to somewhere else. Let's delete that, because what we're using is a construction line in 2 of these. If I look at pocket 6, look at sketch 7, we've got a construction line in here. So I'm going to import this geometry, create a line, connect to here, and come out, and we'll connect it to there as well. That's fine. So hit escape, click this line, make it construction geometry, and see if this works better now. Now we can do our part mirroring. We should be okay. Let's hit OK and drop this down. Now we've got construction line 1 and construction line 2, and now it's mirrored it over. So just watch out for that. So we've got our mirrored feature coming across there. So that's how to use the part mirroring. If I removed one of these features, then I would only get either the hole going straight through or the pocket halfway through. So, okay, that. We can't use a mirror against this body. So this part mirroring here, it won't actually allow it. So we can see we've got pad, pocket, we've got all the features there. We can't do that. We have to actually use the part workbench mirror, like so. And that's mirrored that across here. So we've got those two now. And we need to do the same here, but we've got no mirror. So what we can do is actually try to get in here. Let's zoom in, click on, well, that's going to be the mirror. So we don't want that. So press the space bar on there. You can see what we're doing, and come in here, click on there, and we'll create a sketch. We're going to have to use the section view. Get our bearings. And I'm going to import these 2 sides so we get the points, so we can make a line like so. Hit escape. This is construction geometry. It should have vertical constraint on there. And using these 2 points, these 2 points here and this point, do symmetry. And then add our circle in here, like so. Turn this to construction mode, and we'll add some length here. So I'm going to say 15 millimeters, and a radius or diameter 4. Okay, that. Let's increase this a bit. 30. Looks about right. Let's close that. Now what we need to do is, you can see it's sitting in there. We need to pocket that. Go through all, but there's another option we need to add. So that's gone out this side. We need to make this symmetrical. That's gone through both those sides, and hit OK. So now if I bring back the mirror, we've got those going through there. I think I'm going to add some chamfers on here. Hide the mirror again so I don't pick the part instead of the actual part design body. And we're going to chamfer this edge and this edge. So click on that edge. And let's add a fillet along there. And we can increase the size of that. Pressing up. We're going to go for something like, we could go all the way up if we so desire, like that. Let's just reduce this a bit. Go for something like that. That's good. Okay, that's. So I'm going to use this edge and fillet this edge as well, just to round that off. And pressing up on there, you can see we round it off there. We need to add the other edge if I'm going to do this, so hit add and then select that edge. So we've got two edges there, and we'll just drop the radius and they will come into play like so. So we can add a nice bit of filleting around there just to soften that up and hit OK. So now we've got our part, and we'll come up to the mirror, bring that back, and that's it mirrored across those two like so. So now we've virtually completed our connection block. Got a nice sturdy block. If I wanted to, I could create a curve across here to make this a bit more interesting if I so desire. So for now, I'm going to call this model complete, but we've got one more process, and that's combining this to be able to 3D print it. For that, I'm going to be using the part workbench. So I'm going to show you how the part design and part workbench work together. We've already created the mirror for our body in the part workbench, and we're using the part design safely in conjunction with the part workbench. So last of all, I'm going to go to the part. I'm going to take the body and the mirror and combine them into a single object. This will allow us to export it as an STL format. So we've selected both of those, control select them, part and boolean, and we're going to boolean those together. We've got the body and the body mirror. We're going to use a union with those. Apply that union and close. So now we have those two union together as a fusion. And we can look at our model here. If we come over to the fusion, we've got this refine option, and this will get rid of edges that connect and are the same. So this one here will disappear. Set that to true and click off, and you see how that's vanished now. So we've got a nice clean model with that fusion, which was made up of these two body parts. So the body and the body mirror, which we can bring back whenever we want. Let's hide those two and bring back the fusion. We've now completed our model. We can export it as an STL file format to share with people or 3D print, but we're going to get to that in other videos. For now, I'm going to leave that with you. That's how to use the part design and part workbench safely together to create a connection block. I hope you're enjoying this series, and I hope to see you in the next video. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.